A lot of people say that when Jesus died on the cross, that put the second covenant completely into effect. The Abrahamic covenant is, outdated. The Mosaic law is no longer in effect. And from what I can tell, that's just not true. Part of the stipulation of the new covenant is that every man, every person would have the law of the Lord written on their hearts. You wouldn't have to teach anybody theology or teach them about God. They would already know it. And that's clearly not what's going on here in this world right now, except for, the few people that are actually trying to follow Christ. And when I say follow Christ, it ties back to the law, basically. Now, like Paul says, I've got some different opinions on Paul, but what I will agree with is that the law without a relationship with God is just going to kill you. It's going to highlight how flawed you are. And it's going to show that, it's just not possible. Even in the Old Testament, they were constantly calling on God, because they kept messing up. They actually had to call on God himself. They were trying to have a relationship with him. And I feel like the reason part of it was that he was even doing sacrifices at that time is almost just to kind of build up the idea of what he did, of how great it was. The wages of sin is death. Even in the Old Testament, he didn't really want those sacrifices. He wasn't wanting them to kill, bulls and goats and all that. The point he was trying to make was that the wages of sin is death. You're killing this innocent animal. You're making sure that it's the best of all the animals, basically. You have to offer him your best, and you're killing it. And the reason you're killing it is because you sinned. Nothing to do with the animal. It has to do with you. In fact, if the animal wasn't good, you couldn't use it. You had to take a good, perfect animal. God came down himself. He came down in the flesh. He was our sacrifice. He took our sins on him. It's unbelievable. In order to get to know him, though, you have to obey him. If you don't obey him, you don't love him, you don't fear him. In order to try and obey him, you have to follow the law as best as you know how. Which, if you don't read the Bible at all, is basically just going to be your own understanding of right and wrong. And then if you really are doing it, God will lead you from there. But it's better to just start with, I think, the law. It shows you what you need to do. It's better than just getting molded over time. It takes a long time when the law is right there. I don't think that sacrifices and stuff are necessary anymore. The temple's not around. The things that you need to follow in the law nowadays would be things like the dietary laws, the Sabbath, adultery, thieving, lying, shouldn't be jealous of people. Just basically common decency that, it doesn't seem that hard to follow on those levels. In the Levitical laws, there's a little bit more, like I say, the dietary laws. So no shrimp, pork. For me, that's not that big a deal, honestly. The way I see it is if God didn't want them to eat it, why would he want me to eat it? And really, part of it, honestly, what I just recently was thinking about is that, supposedly pork tastes a lot like human flesh. And, I know Satanists are running everything. Just makes you wonder. Maybe that's why God doesn't want you eating pork. But I'm not going to eat it anymore. Anyway, as far as following the law, like I say, do your best to do what you think is right and wrong. If you're really doing your best to try and do what's right and wrong, God will reprove you and discipline you until you start doing what he tells you to do. It's better to listen early. God bless.